Meanwhile, here in Jerusalem, there is growing outrage over a video that has gone viral. That video shows Israeli police beating a 15-year-old Palestinian-American teenager. Now, that teenager was released on bail yesterday, and he was also placed under house arrest until he leaves Israel and returns back to the United States. His family has been outraged by the Israeli court's decision, and they say that he should not have had any restrictions imposed on him since he was not charged with any crime. Meanwhile, Israeli officials say they are making progress in the investigation in the killing of a 17-year-old Palestinian, Mohammed Abu Khdeir, who was kidnapped and burned alive. They say at least 6 Jewish nationalists have been arrested. They're calling them extremists, and they say that these individuals, they believe, were responsible for the kidnapping and his murder. It was his murder that triggered the wave of protests over the course of the last several days. Joy?
All right, NBC's Ayman Mohyeddin in Jerusalem. Thank you. On Sunday, Ayman interviewed Tariq Khdeir, the Palestinian-American teenager who was beaten during protest over his cousin's death.
Here's when they started stepping on my back and beating me from behind. And here's when they were punching me and kicking me.
What happened to your wrist right here?
Oh, these are from the handcuffs when they took me to jail.
Joining me now is Hassan Shibli, the Chief Executive Director of the Florida chapter of the Council on American-Islamic Relations. Shibli has been in contact with Tariq Abu Khdeir's family. And thank you for being here, Hassan. First of all, tell us how Tariq Khdeir is doing and where he is at this hour.
Thank you, Joy. Right now, he's actually mourning the loss of his cousin, Mohammed, who you mentioned was brutally slaughtered and burned to death last week. They're having a family funeral sort of service right now at this moment. But right now, Tariq's suffering from major headaches. His eyes are still bloodshot. He still has stitches, and he's really not feeling well. We need to bring him back to the U.S. as soon as possible so he can get proper medical treatment for the severe injuries he suffered when Israeli soldiers restrained his arms and really beat him unconscious.
And does the family know whether he is being charged with something? Is there a reason why he's still under house arrest? Is it for his safety, or what information do they have about the circumstances of how he's being, I guess, held in Israel?
Yeah, he's being held under house arrest for 9 days. The judge actually wanted to keep it for 2 weeks, but they said, no, we have to return home to America. We want to bring our boy back home. So the judge put it down to 9 days without any charges, and that's just outrageous. It makes no sense why the victim of severe brutality by the Israeli officers would be placed under house arrest while the officers who engaged in this violent, brutal, terrible attack against him walk free.
Well, now the members of the Israeli government, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have condemned the killing of Tariq Khdeir's cousin, Mohammed, and also contacted the family. Does the family feel like the Israeli authorities have been proactive? Are they, what was their response to those contacts?
Not really. I mean, nothing was happening. In fact, they feared that Tariq would still have been in jail right now with no charges and no proper medical treatment had it not been for the international attention that his plight has received. And they're actually very grateful to the media internationally and activists worldwide who contacted the U.S. State Department, contacted the Israeli embassies and said, you need to bring this American boy back home so he can get the proper medical treatment. Meanwhile, his own cousins, as young as 13 years old, are still languishing in Israeli prisons right now with broken bones and suffering without medical treatment, but they're not getting the same sort of attention because they're not American.
And what was happening at the time that Tariq was confronted by Israeli police? Was he engaged in a protest? Was he throwing rocks? What was going on?
No, he wasn't doing anything. He was outside his relative's home. He was on his own family's land when he saw people starting running in his direction. So he didn't know what was going on. Again, he's just an American kid from Tampa, used to playing basketball, going fishing, taking selfies. He's not used to being in a conflict area, and nor was he expecting there to be conflict. Again, he was going just to visit friends and family. So when he saw people running, he naturally turned and started running, and that's when the Israeli officers caught up to him, slammed him to the ground, restrained his hands, and then started to brutally beat him, kick him in the head, punch him, use really deadly force against him until he was unconscious, and then woke up finding himself in an Israeli prison, not knowing really why that happened.
And the picture we actually just showed was of Mohammed Abu Khdeir, the cousin who was killed, reportedly burned alive by assailants. 6 people have been arrested. What do you know, Hassan, about the status of the investigation into his murder?
Well, right now we're still waiting for a lot of answers. Of course, the killing of Muhammad was extremely tragic. The killing of the 3 Israeli teenagers was extremely tragic and unjustifiable. The killing of the 2 Palestinians that happened 2 weeks before that was extremely tragic. I mean, we really just need both sides to stop this cycle of violence that's really taking the lives of innocent children. I think when innocent children start getting killed, it really means we're losing our humanity. We need to value the lives of all children, Israelis, Arabs, Palestinians, Muslims, Jews, Christians. We need to value the lives of all children equally, regardless of their race and religion, and stop this violence before it leads to the deaths of more children. And the Israeli government needs to take action to ensure that its officers are not abusing their power and brutally innocent young children.
And to that point, the fact that there was an American child involved really did obviously open the eyes of the Americans and have more Americans pay attention to this. What does the family want to see happen more broadly? Because there is a lot of fear, I think, in this side of the world that there will be another intifada, that this will lead to just endless escalating cycles of violence. What does the family want to see happen now?
Well, I just got off the phone with Tariq's mother, and they're very scared right now. The Israeli soldiers are on their street for no apparent reason. They say, look, they're out there, they're scaring the children in the streets. So right now, they just want to come back home to America. They want to bring Tariq back to get the proper medical treatment that he needs. And also, they want the Israeli officers to be held accountable. Just today, they went and met with the police forces to file a formal criminal complaint against the officers involved. CAIR Florida today is also sending a letter to Israel, making it clear that we're representing the family and that we demand a full and fair investigation and that those officers be held accountable. And the key message really is we don't want any other child to go through the traumatic experience that young Tariq went through.
All right, and thank you so much, Hassan Shibli, and thank you also for making the very key point that we need to make sure that all children, no matter what their ethnic background and religious background, should be valued. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Joy.